What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Top 5 bold predictions for the 2020 season. I usually make this video only at the end of summer, but I thought it would be fun to make an earlier version, keeping in mind that these are bold predictions, so they're not all supposed to hit. This isn't like medium predictions where it's like all these things are definitely going to come true. These are bold, so they're not supposed to come true. Reminder that the new website is up, boatload of free information over there, and then you can also listen to these as a podcast. So if you don't feel like looking at the actual video, you don't like the YouTube app, can listen to them as a podcast on iTunes and Spotify. So let's get things started with a tight end prediction. And my prediction is that 20 tight ends will have more than 100 fantasy points this season. Hasn't happened since 2012, so it's been a while. And just 12 did so last season. And last season was actually really bad. One of the worst seasons in a while at the tight end position. But I like this take because not that the high end is just extraordinarily good. It is good, don't get me wrong. But it's not that the high end's really good. It's just that there are so many at the low end. Goddard, Higbee, Fant, Gesicki, Hawkinson, Jarwin, Jonnu Smith, Ian Thomas, Hayden Hurst, Burton, Irv Smith, Ebron, Herndon, Olsen, Knox, Howard, Everett. 17 tight ends are going in the later rounds of drafts or not being taken at all. And you could take any of them. Obviously, there are some that we prefer much more than others, but there are options everywhere. And are all of them going to be good? No, of course not. But a lot of them are going to be serviceable, and I have a hard time believing that there aren't going to be a few breakouts in that grouping. And when you consider that there are 10 tight ends already established being taken ahead of them, we don't need that many of those guys to hit for this prediction to be right. And even though maybe like 18 or 19 get the 100 fantasy points, I just want to convey with this message that there are so many to take late that the value of the early ones is lower because of scarcity. So just something to consider in the late rounds of drafts. There are a million tight ends you can take. Next prediction is with quarterbacks, in that Matthew Stafford is going to finish as a top 5 quarterback this season. From 2011 to 2018, he was the quarterback 1 in 6 out of 8 seasons, and he was having maybe the best season of his career before getting hurt in week 9 last year, on pace for 5,000 yards, 38 touchdowns, ended the season 4th in points per game, just a half point behind Watson and Prescott. I feel like people are scared to draft Stafford because they think he's injury prone, right? Because every time someone gets hurt, the next season he's injury prone. But he had played 139 consecutive games leading up to that point, and he'll be 32 all season, which is certainly not too old at the quarterback position, especially for pocket passers. This isn't a guy who's scrambling around every play. It was his first season under Darrell Bevell, and the fact that there were little to no growing pains was a great sign. You know, sometimes when a quarterback and an offensive coordinator meet up for their first season, there's some growing pains. There are some things that the quarterback is doing differently that they just haven't had enough time to get comfortable with. But Stafford was fantastic right out of the gates. And you guys know I advocate for quarterback late in general, and Stafford has been a great option this offseason using that strategy, since basically never is he being taken inside the top 12. So second season under Bevell, adding an extra receiving weapon in Swift, plus Hawkinson being in his second season, there's just so many weapons around him that his touchdown ceiling is absolutely massive. And just to cap it all off, if you add up his fantasy points last season with what Jeff Driscoll and David Blau, however you say his name is, add all those guys up, then you finish with the quarterback 9. So even with half of a season with the backup and third string quarterbacks, you get quarterback 9 production. That's the upside he has in this offense. So I love him late this year. Next prediction, wide receiver, A.J. Brown will finish as a top 5 wide receiver. Finishes rookie season, 84 targets for 52 receptions, over 1,000 yards. It was 1,051 and 8 touchdowns. And if you look back at the last 30 seasons, there have only been 3 wide receivers to post that sort of stat line in their rookie season before turning age 23. Randy Moss, Odell, who did so in 12 games, which is crazy, and Mike Evans. That's it. And you know what was special about A.J. Brown's season? The offense. The Titans threw the ball fewer than any other team in football at less than 27 pass attempts per game. In the last 5 years, only the 2018 Seahawks threw the ball less than that. I know they love to run it, but they're going to throw more. There's no way they throw as little as they just did, and that's going to benefit their undisputed number one. Because make no mistake, he's the guy. There's no one challenging him for targets. The only real talent behind him on the depth chart is Corey Davis, and they didn't even pick up his 5th-year option. So we also need to consider, well, was he a full-time player last year? Not for most of the year. No, he wasn't. He was playing less than half of the snaps over the first month of the season, and then about 60% until week 10, before finally becoming a full-time player over the final 6 weeks, where he averaged 17.5 fantasy points per game, which would have been second most over a full season. Now, obviously, you can't just take that number and project it for a full year, but I think it's just the culmination of everything that makes him a great pick. He was my favorite receiver coming out of that draft class. He had an insane rookie season. He had incredibly low volume overall on that offense, and he wasn't getting a full workload. Still did fantastic. So I love him this season, and I think he can absolutely finish as a top 5 wide receiver. At running back, assuming that he does not hold out, Joe Mixon will finish as a top 3 running back in fantasy. Mixon's top backup is Giovanni Bernard, who realistically might get cut during the offseason. Behind him, you've got Rodney Anderson, who's now torn his ACL in back-to-back seasons, might not be ready to start the year. So his only real backup right now is Trevion Williams, who has never had a touch in the NFL. So assuming that he stays healthy, he's going to explode this season. And he's entering his 4th season, but he's still just 24 years old. So coming off a 313 touch season where he finishes the running back 13, despite playing on the worst team in football with a backup quarterback and no weapons around him for defenses to worry about, they're absolutely going to be an infinitely better offense overall, and that's always a good thing for the running back. So his touchdown ceiling's massive. He could see north of 50 receptions. And while he does have above average injury concerns, Sports Injury Predictor doesn't have him as a crazy high risk, just above average. So if he can stay on the field, if he doesn't hold out, he's absolutely going to finish as a running back 1, and I can definitely see him finishing in the top 3. For the final prediction, we're going to do the bad side. So we did everything positive. Now we're going to do one negative prediction. Austin Eckler is going to finish outside the top 20 running backs in half PPR. Now, this is not an attack on Austin Eckler's talent. I think he's a fantastic running back. I just think people are overrating his first month last season and underweighing the risk here. He had his best rushing season of his career last season, and yet even with Melvin Gordon holding out for the first month of the year, he still only had 557 rushing yards. And if you look at his snaps over the first month, when there was no Melvin Gordon, he was still only playing 65 to 75% of the snaps. So then what happens in the offseason? Well, Phillip Rivers leaves to go play for the Colts. And so now they're starting Tyrod Taylor, maybe Justin Herbert for part of the season, but they've said that they want to wait and develop him. So probably going to see Tyrod for a good chunk of the year. Plus, they drafted Joshua Kelly in the 4th round. Kelly had a great combine. He's great in pass protection. He's a good receiver. And so not only will he take early down work, not only will he take some goal line work, he's going to take some third down work as well. And then they come out and say, well, we want Eckler, Kelly, and Jackson to all be involved. So there's an insane amount of risk here. And the quarterback change is less risk and more just a blatant downgrade because the offense is going to be worse and the running backs are going to be targeted less. So we need to assume he's going to see a big drop from his 92 receptions for nearly 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns last season. And when that happens, he's not going to have the rushing stats to make up for it. I mean, he needs close to 100 receptions to truly burn you at his ADP. And personally, I'm comfortable fading that. So Eckler is kind of turning into an avoid for me as current ADP. So those are my 5 bold predictions for the 2020 fantasy football season. Remember, you can see my takes as they evolve at our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. That's the end of this one. I hope you all did enjoy. If you did, how about hitting the like button? And how about subscribing to the channel if you're new? Thanks for watching.